All right, Mech Commanders, jumping in with the Hunchback, the Hunchy. This is a vlog request to kind of explore this mech, and I'm eager to jump into that because the Hunchback is one of my favorite mechs. Now, if you've been following my channel right away, you're like, Fritz, I can make your list pretty easy. Stuff with dual PPCs, Marauders and Warhammers. True, yep. Stuff that has and mounts autocannon 20s, like a Karnov. Yep. Like Hunchbacks, like all sorts of mechs that have autocannon 20s on there. Cyclops. I mean, Cyclops is an interesting machine. It's not the most optimal, but it has an autocannon 20, so I'm sold. I'm in. Bringing that massive gun to the inner sphere. I might need 12s to hit you, but I guarantee you're going to be watching the dice and we're going to be building that tension. So the Hunchback is up there with my list in terms of favorite mechs. But being a medium mech, it has bite, but you can easily overextend yourself quickly. And that's the checklist. That's what we want to kind of avoid, because nothing is more sad face in Battletech playing big guns where you just can't make it up there and get to fire off. You get kind of stopped, sandbagged, blown up, smoking boots before you even make it up there. So we want to do our best to avoid that. And this is the honest duality. I do get sad face when some mechs on the table attract a lot of attention, a lot of heat. My AC-20 mechs, my opponent. But I can't be that sad because, like, you're not just going to let me walk up there. You're just not going to let me get point blank with an autocannon 20, stand still for the turn so I have no movement modifiers and blast you. You can't. So it's this love-hate with this weapon system and PPCs to a secondary extent. But I understand why. And likewise, when I face off against AC-20s, like I can't let that mech close. So we see the jump. I was going to say, I was just thinking, is there a light mech that mounts an autocannon 20? Not a homebrew mech. We can homebrew anything, mech lab anything. But I mean, a stock mech or even a variant with an AC-20. Yes, the urban mech. There we go. And I'm always playing the urban mech. But that is an absolute rarity. Because to mount that type of weapon, the 60L on the urban mech, to mount that type of weapon, you are making massive concessions. I mean, Irby doesn't have speed to start. Armor's pretty good for a light mech, but to mount an autocannon 20, that essentially relegates it to like just a turret with legs that you're going to try and ambush something with. There's a lot of concessions. I say that and I frame that because now as we move into medium mechs, and this is true across the weight class, now you've got a little bit of stuff. After you put on the guts of the mech and the gyros, the internals, and the sensors, and you fill out the engine, and you've got some armor, you've got enough tonnage where now you can put in multiple primary weapon systems. And I define a primary weapon system as long-range missiles, AC-5, AC-10, medium lasers. Secondary weapons are stuff like really SRM-2s, flamers, machine guns, autocannon 2s, smaller stuff that is limited by range and or damage. But medium mechs now have the tonnage. You also have the tonnage to mount an autocannon 20 effectively. And the Hunchback is not like the urban mech where you've got an AC-20 and that's it. Hunchy, you forget about it sometimes, but has medium lasers too. It has some bite. It also has better armor. So you're in that sweet spot with medium mechs. And in the lore and in the narrative, they're the workhorse. Most of the inner sphere mechs that you're going to face, that you're going to fight, are going to be these medium machines. Jumping into heavies, you're going to start to have a panic attack when you see a heavy. And, if there's lances of assault mechs, that means we're right in the middle of a planetary invasion and nobody told me what's going on. So the medium mechs are the workhorse of the inner sphere. With the Hunchback, now you can mount that autocannon 20, and you can mount some other primary weapons. You've got okay speed, and you've got some decent armor. And I always define decent armor as, I'm going to do my best not to get hit, but I can take 1 or 2 hits, maybe 3 hits, and not collapse or not start to really just be able to force withdraw or pull back. I can continue on my mission. So that's the Hunchback. Now, the big question, as we started with, how are you going to get up there? How are you going to get up there? And this is where you get into trouble. The Hunchback needs to be part of a lance, fully integrated, and there needs to be almost a bigger threat to the Hunchback on the way in. A perfect example would be something like a Warhammer. Kind of heat issues there, but Warhammer with the PPCs. The Warhammer is the duality of you've got the PPCs, so does the Marauder. But when the Warhammer closes, you turn off the PPCs, and now you got lasers, you got missiles, you got machine guns. The Marauder has the lasers and the autocannon, but it really doesn't have that point blank type weapon systems. But maybe a Marauder too to a secondary effect. But the idea is you want to pair that Hunchback in a lance or a battle group and push it forward where there's a threat much higher. So this way, when I see you walking across the table, I'm like, all right, I need to punk that Hunchback. I want to take that Hunchback out. But I've got a Marauder coming at me. I've got a Warhammer coming at me. And it's going to be point blank. So if I shoot at the Hunchback and I take it out, great. If I stop it from making close. If I don't take it out, I'll damage it, I'll wound it, but the AC-20 will still be up there and the Warhammer will be fresh. But if I focus on the Warhammer, the Hunchback will get in. This is the dynamics we're trying to create. If you just march the Hunchback forward, or if you attach the Hunchback to a light lance, a light battle group, they're just going to focus fire on it. It's going to go down. So you need threat battle value higher, significantly higher, to utilize the Hunchback. So we're moving in. And look, if I'm walking in with my Marauder, my Warhammer, my Hunchback, and my Valkyrie, and you throw 2 or 3 lances at me, you're going to stop me. You're going to stall me. You are. That's simple Battletech physics, momentum. But that's 3 battle groups, 3 lances to my 1. I've got other stuff on the table that's now going to be able to operate freely. So also with the lance composition in general, but especially with the Hunchback, it's threat of force. It's projection. It's capturing your opponent's attention. And in addition to dealing damage, it is... what opportunity can it create on the table? By focusing on that, by having your opponent pull off units to deal with a Hunchback, what other economies does that buy you tactically for the mission? That I can't even begin to answer. It's in the moment. We got to pause and see. I got to have the camera on your game and watch you and be whispering Tactica into your ears. So exploring it from that perspective, playing it from that perspective. Now we're going to get close. And the idea, I've often referred to the Hunchback as a bodyguarding mech, because on the way in, if we look at this lance of my Warhammer, Marauder, Valkyrie, and Hunchback, the Hunchy, on the way in, I'm going to be firing those PPCs. I'm going to be firing the autocannon on the Marauder. I'm going to be doing the LRM 10-pack on the Valkyrie. I've got some bite. I've got some dice on the way in. Hunchback's not in range. If you send in something to intercept some vehicles, maybe a Jenner just to harass, I don't want to disengage and pull off a mech, my Warhammer or my Valkyrie, to deal with, say, this imaginary Jenner, because I want to keep the pressure firing on the targets where I'm heading into, that point on the map that I'm heading into. The Hunchback is a bodyguard mech because anything that comes in to try and stop my lance and get close, Hunchy's going to turn and blast you with that autocannon 20. And again, I want to hit, but it's the projection of force. Even a Jenner pilot staring down the size of that massive autocannon is like, look, I didn't even crunch the numbers, but Fritz is going to need at least 10 plus to hit me. That's good. You want me to roll those dice? I'll take those odds. You don't want to be in any firing arc whatsoever. So exploring that, it's a bodyguard mech. Now you get close and you make it in. Rule number 1 of an autocannon 20, as soon as you're in range, you start shooting. You need 12s, you start shooting, because this could be lucky. This could be your lucky day. You roll enough dice, it'll happen. But also the threat of force, capturing your opponent's attention, momentum, all that stuff that we've talked about. As soon as you're in range, you start shooting. Absolutely. Even if it's they've got the movement modifiers, you've got the run modifier, you've got range, you can take the shot, you take the shot. So we start pushing that out. You want to be able to, we talked about this in a previous podcast, this idea of danger close, when 2 mechs get close to each other, when my Warhammer gets close to your Warhammer, because, we're opposing bros, then we're going to be blasting each other. If I turn with my Warhammer or face in another direction or really try to effectively pull off, then I'm going to it's literally like a fighter, a boxer. If I give you my back or side, I'm just going to get savaged. So we're locked into that danger close. You want to hold the Hunchback back a little bit, 3 or 4 hexes back. Commit with your heavier machines. Get those locked into the mix. Force your opponent to engage. And now the Hunchback is going to work its way around. First round will be side. Next round will be rear. And rear shots with the autocannon 20 is just savage. Just absolutely devastating. Keep in mind, secondary tactica, you've got the medium lasers. And when you do close, so you have something at range on the way in with those medium lasers, don't forget the positioning of the autocannon is perfect when you are that close, because I want to be 1 hex away. When you are that close, and when we're that close, I don't need the run modifiers always. I'll have the walk modifiers. You'll have your modifiers. But when I'm that close, I want to be able to blast with the autocannon and then punch. That's rear armor autocannon. Could hit legs, get sad face, but it's rear armor or arms. But then I'm punching on the punch table. The power of that 1 in 6 chance to knock your head off. And it's a medium mech. I don't have the tonnage of a heavy or an assault, but that's got bite. And it's very, very easy as a secondary tactic. There's all these secondary tactics in Battletech where I'm not going to count on them happening all the time, but if I force enough dice checks, then at some point something wacky and zany will happen. Hunchback is very, very easy to force pilot tests by taking damage, by dishing out that damage. Extremely easy to do that for its weight class. This is something that a one-on-one mech, an assault mech one-on-one can force pilot checks when you take a lot of damage. Otherwise, if it's a lance, you got to kind of focus fire on a mech to kind of force that. Hunchy can do it by itself, all in a medium chassis. And imagine if you force that check on something you're trying to mug, they fail that check, and now they're just going to get savaged by everything, right? I'm not going to count on it, but if I can force that enough, sooner or later, in wargaming, anytime you roll dice, something bad is going to happen at some point. So if I can increase the dice pool, increase the dice rolls, something bad will happen at that point. So an excellent, excellent machine. I love it for the AC-20. For what it brings to the table, I would say it's definitely a mech you want to add to your collection, because even if it's not your play style, it's a lot of fun to play. And just having the presence of an autocannon 20 on a medium mech, keeping that battle value down, high battle value games where it's like, Fritz has got the Cyclops, he's got the Atlas, everybody's packing AC-20. Hunchy gets lost in that sea of stuff. But in lower battle value games where it's like, all right, I've got maybe 2 lights and a medium, Hunchback's interesting, or if you have some tanks and you've bolstered some other stuff, or maybe, the star of the show is 1 heavy mech or 2 heavy mechs. Bringing a Hunchback for the battle value, for the buy-in, very, very excellent. Very, very potent. I would say an auto-include in your collection. But even if it's not an auto-include, it will fill out your stable of mechs very, very nicely. There are a few of you on Facebook, Fritz, we need that permission to buy it because I've been blaming you and throwing your name around to my significant other. And it's like, I'm a wanted man in multiple star systems for that. But I will make a concession because we're getting in the holiday spirit and we're getting ready for more Battletech stuff. So I give you permission, absolutely, to go out and buy only one. You can get 2 or 3 Karnovs, but only 1 Hunchback to add to your collection.